Hello, welcome to Mod Midwives, a Metro Midwifery podcast. I'm Gina Gerbath.
And I'm Nedra Hale, and we are home birth midwives serving the Denver metro area.
Oh, that sounded very soft and nice. Very good.
Oh, sorry. Am I
very
very
good
soft?
Voice. My microphone was not in the right place because we are doing our second podcast today. And I just moved my microphone to take a drink of my sparkling water, which is a vice for me.
Yes, my nose. I had to blow my nose. And I hope you don't hear my stomach growling because
I'm
protesting.
Sorry. I'm sorry you're hungry.
I never got, it's been a crazy morning. I was going to make my eggs. As you've already heard the saga of my day, so I had a banana and then I did all my yard work and then I ate some yogurt because I was going to do yoga. And then we had a client call and there was all these things I needed to do. There were all these things that I needed to do. And then it was time to do the podcast. So I never made my eggs is the moral of the story.
Oh, I'm sorry.
After this, we'll have eggs for lunch.
My husband made me breakfast burrito, so I was happy about that.
Oh, I'm going to make a breakfast burrito. That sounds really good.
Yeah.
But yes, I am definitely on a, at least in the morning, an every 2-hour eating plan. So
yeah.
I have off my schedule.
Yeah, you do need to have regular snackage.
In the afternoon it's better. In the afternoon it's not so bad, but in the morning I definitely need a lot.
Well, it seems like you need to eat right away, but then you can only eat a little bit. Like I can't eat right away. So that's the problem, is that you have to eat, but they can't be a lot.
Start small and then a little bit more and then a meal.
Yeah. Yeah. That is not my problem. I can eat a lot all the time. So, yeah, today is kind of a crazy day. We're doing this on a Sunday, which is not my favorite day to do it, but it just didn't happen. But that lends itself to having time to do it and not feeling rushed. So I guess that's
right.
The good side of it. But
yes.
So for this podcast, we are going to do Ask the Midwives again. We still have questions to get through. However, we are getting low, so we would really like to get more questions from people.
Yes.
Questions for Ask the Midwives. So I'm going to start off with...
should have had more coffee too.
Uh-oh.
Get ready for these questions.
I had my 2 giant cups. Okay, this is funny. I actually have to go blow my nose all of a sudden. I'm going to read the question and let you answer, and I will pop out, blow my nose, and come back. Okay. So, Nedra, do you have any tips for postpartum care that go beyond the typical 6-week period?
Oh, interesting. Okay, so I would say that looking into a pelvic floor therapist is a really great idea, because even if you have a totally normal delivery and no tears, which is our goal, we want no tears, there can still be pelvic floor dysfunction. So I think a physical therapist, I wish I had seen one ages ago, and I'm seeing more and more of our clients using them. Mm-hmm. And someday I'm going to go see one. I still have never done it, but it's just you have babies, you should get your pelvic floor looked at and make sure it's all going the way it's supposed to. We're not
fine-tuned. We're not
supposed to have urinary problems. We're not supposed to have any of these issues that many, 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 many people have, even with and
we've been normalizing it for generations.
Making little jokes about peeing when you sneeze and stuff. No, these things are not normal.
Right. Yeah, that's a great one.
Yeah.
Probably what I would have said too. So now I have to think of something.
Oh, no.
We don't rehearse these ahead of time in case there's any question about that.
How about fitness programs? I think, I think we have this thing where we, as a society, say that at 6 weeks you're magically normal and you can't, you can do anything that you were able to do before. And that is just not the case for a lot of people. So, a lot of people have a diastasis. Some people might have a hernia. I think maybe getting some professional evaluation for personal training. I know these things I'm saying are all really expensive, but we kind of need to head to toe evaluate what our bodies are now. And because we don't ever, I'm not trying to be negative here. I don't think it's even desirable for our bodies to be you know, pre-babies for all of our lives. If we decide to have babies, I think you have life changes, and having a baby is a change to your body, and getting to know what those changes are and addressing them if they need to be addressed early on is really important.
And not getting complacent. I think it's really easy to be complacent. And I've made jokes over the years. I'm 16 years postpartum, you know. So, and not, you know, you can still be really healthy and fit, and it's a different kind of healthy and fit than it was before you had babies.
Right.
But it's still totally worth pursuing. Same with diet. I think when you're breastfeeding, at least for me, it's the one time I can kind of eat what I want. And so there's really a tendency to just kind of eat what I want.
Yeah.
And that's not true for me in pregnancy. It is true for breastfeeding. Like, I think I just burn more calories. So I think I would encourage people to get back to healthy eating habits, not calorie restriction or anything like that necessarily, but healthy eating habits before you strictly have to. Making it more of a lifestyle change would be maybe advice for that.
Yeah.
And then I'll do one. So you and I both really strongly believe in attachment parenting. We're both, you know, we're proponents of bed sharing. We're proponents of extended breastfeeding. I don't really like the term extended breastfeeding. Full term breastfeeding, full course breastfeeding. Physiologic breastfeeding. Where, you know, baby wearing, meeting the needs of your child, gentle discipline, all of these things are things that we both really believe in. And I wouldn't change that. However, did you lose me?
I lost you for a second. Are you, can you hear me?
Yeah. It said my internet connection was unstable.
Oh yeah. I was worried it was me.
No, it was me.
And then, okay.
Sorry. Good. It's back. Anyway, we believe in all of these strongly. You know, this is not something I'm saying that we would change. But
again.
Oh no.
What's happening, Gina?
I don't know. Do you not have me?
No, I have you now, but you froze again.
Oh my gosh. Okay, come on, internet. We don't have time for this. Okay, I'm going to say it and hopefully it'll go through. I would have implemented some self-care rituals, routines, practices sooner. I would have practiced attachment parenting again. I mean, I would do it again if I had it to do again, and I would have incorporated more self-care.
Yeah, that is a challenge.
I do think that I played the martyr a few too many years.
Yeah. I might still be doing that. I'm not sure.
I am not doing that anymore. I am # over it. I'm not interested in putting myself second anymore.
Yeah.
And it's probably because I have boys and I'm just like, I don't know. There's definitely more of a mama bear thing, or, you know, like a weaning dog thing where I'm biting my babies now for sure. Yeah. Anyway, no, but I would find a way to not lose myself in this thing that I believe really strongly in. I don't know what that looks like. Like, I don't know. It's not bubble baths. It's not, it is probably exercise and diet and sleep.
Exercise and diet and sleep, I think, are the big things.
Stress management, therapy.
Yeah.
All of that. Also expensive. But
I mean, baths just take a lot of freaking time that I don't have. I mean,
we don't even have a bathtub, so it doesn't even matter. But it's not about petties and massages or, you know.
No.
Also, we don't get petties and massages anymore.
No, I desperately need a pedi, but I will be doing my own toes again. This will be the third time that I have done it in the pandemic.
I just don't really have to have one the same way. I like them. I like cute toes and sandals, but
I am terrible.
All right. What are your top 3 suggestions? We don't really have to make it 3 for how families can set themselves up for a positive birth experience. I have one.
Okay, go.
Well, you think. There's a lot of work to be done. So I sometimes use the analogy of preparing for birth like preparing for a road trip. It doesn't mean that you know exactly where you're going to go or when you're going to get there or what the actual journey is going to look like, but you do need to do a lot of preparation in order to make it a good experience. So I really think that the most important thing you can do is educate yourself about labor, birth, the process, how to manage your energy, what our role is. I think that, we have had few unhappy clients, but over between both of us over 10 to 12 years, we have had a few unhappy clients. And when they're unhappy, it's because their expectations were not realistic. And so the education of what's reasonable is actually, I think, really important.
Right. And definitely education was something I was going to touch on, but I'm going to expand on that and say that loosening so it's kind of like what you said, except for loosening the attachment to a certain outcome, whether that is a painless birth, being relaxed and quiet, like this, birthing goddess that you see on YouTube. And
if you were married to Tom Cruise, that's what you'd have to be.
Yes,
yeah.
Yes.
Maybe worth it. I don't know.
Although I did one of those.
Did you?
Yeah. Yes. So remind me where I was when I
okay.
But my experience was that the birthing person did not need to be quiet. It was the rest of us that needed to be quiet.
Oh.
So we had to make signs to communicate, but she could make noise. So anyway, yeah. So releasing the attachment. I don't know if that's actually how it works, but that's how it was in our experience, and that's what they told us. And that is the entirety of my body of knowledge about the Scientology birth.
Well, that's more than I have.
So releasing the attachment to your outcomes. So, so definitely educate yourself. Definitely know, the techniques that you're going to use for pain management and all this stuff. But at the same time, know that not everything works for everybody. And it's really, for most people, not plausible to magically remove the discomfort of birth. And so expect some discomfort. I'm sorry. It's a really hard thing to birth a baby through your pelvis. And,
through your bones and your soft tissues.
Yes.
Like, I think that sometimes people think, well, you stretch and et cetera, et cetera. That big old bony head has to come through your pelvis. It's hard.
It is hard. Naturally hard. It is not bad that it's hard. It's a thing that is hard.
Yeah.
And so, and you can, of course, make it easier using lots of different techniques, but I think I have seen, many times that people thought they did it wrong, thought something didn't work right.
Right. Thought that if they had done X, Y, or Z, A, B, or C would have happened.
A painless birth. So, and then of course, remove the attachment to the rest of it too. So, even though we really, really want a home birth and we really, really want you to have a home birth too, remove the attachment to it, because the thing is not the home birth. The thing is having a safe birth. And sometimes that means we have to move.
Yeah, I always preface that usually in an early prenatal, if not the consultation, hiring a midwife isn't about having a home birth. It's about having midwifery care, which was our last, which was our last podcast.
Yes.
And part of midwifery care is appropriate referral. So
yes, of course.
Yeah. Sorry guys, I don't know what's happening to my computer today. I know you'll hear this on the recording. There's a clicky thing. I don't think you can hear it, Nedra.
I didn't hear it.
It's funny, a few podcasts ago when I mentioned it, it was on the recording, so it's on my computer since I'm recording it. Anyway, sorry. I'm actually looking forward to doing the podcast again with actual podcasting equipment. The sound quality is much better. It was, and when we first did the Zoom, I was like, well, we could have been doing this all along. And then now I'm like, oh, the quality is a lot better with the podcasting equipment.
But now I've gotten into watching all of these Zoom podcasts. I don't even know what they're called, but now I'm getting really into it. So I'm like, maybe this is the way. I don't know.
Until they can fix the sound quality and the internet and stuff like that, it's not going to be as good. So what you're talking about is very Buddhist, non-attachment, that you're just letting go.
Yes, and as you know, I am not good at that either. So
yeah, I mean, I don't know if I don't think I am either. I mean, I think it's maybe not a trait of people who choose home birth, because people that choose home birth do want more control over their environment and their situation and their experience. So I think that could possibly be an overarching generalization that home birth people aren't good at non-attachment.
Maybe so.
Maybe not. I don't know. And then I guess I would also say, besides the education, so those are two. So we've got education, I think you're kind of saying flexibility or
flexibility.
Resilience.
Yeah. So let's say flexibility. And I think you're right though, because you have to take on something like natural birth and then home birth. In addition to that, you have to be determined. You have to be focused. And so of course it's kind of
but that's why I use the road trip analogy, because yes, you're doing the planning and the preparation and you're packing your cooler and you've got your maps all pulled up and you're doing all your stuff, but you're willing to go look at that stupid ball of yarn.
Yeah.
By the way, I hate
also
road
you're
trips.
willing. I love road trips, so I love this analogy. And the thing is, you have to leave extra time for what if you get a flat tire?
Yeah.
Like there's contingencies that have to be factored for.
Yeah. So I think we're still okay. We've got a whole thing going here.
Yeah.
This could be a blog post.
That too.
Home birth is a road trip. Yes.
Yes.
The third one is building your support system. So I think that sometimes people think I hired a midwife and therefore I have a good support system. And I love that they have so much faith in us, but it's not enough. We're not enough.
Definitely not.
So you want to create a very supportive team. And this goes all the way from who's going to help you with your kids or your pets during the birth. A doula would be a great member of the team for a lot of people. Postpartum support. We just talked about postpartum care, like immediate postpartum support is a big piece of that support system. Your partner is a big piece of the support system. And remember that we, your midwives, are not even with you in labor until active labor. Do most of your labor without us. And that means that you need support for that time. And occasionally people can get themselves kind of worked up in early labor and sort of spiral to where they're not really coping well. And so before they're even in active labor. And so having some support resources available to you, it's even if you're struggling, it's not necessarily appropriate for us to be there. There's a couple reasons why us being there too early is not really great in a lot of cases. One is it's the watched pot syndrome. Once we're there is an element of pressure, even though we're trying not to add to that element of pressure. It's just an internal thing. So another thing that home birth people, as a generalization, do is they're pleasers. They're performers. They're used to being high achievers in their life. And again, just a generalization. But once we're there can be an internal pressure to achieve. So being there early is not helpful for you. It's also not pragmatic. Early labor can last 24, 36, 48 hours, and we would be exhausted if we were, that's the downside of the continuity of care, is that you don't have just a random person coming and going. Now, we might spell each other after 24 hours. We're lucky that we have a team of two. Yeah. But we still can't kind of go indefinitely.
Yeah. I mean, if we're there through 12 hours of early labor,
we'll be exhausted for the big
1 and 4 centimeters. It's not there. It's not clinically necessary, and then we are tired when we have to do important things. Not that the support isn't important, but that's where a doula is such a great idea for a first baby.
Yeah, definitely. And the other thing is that if you were having a hospital birth, you would be sent home for the most part.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Either sent home or augmented and started down the cascade of intervention. So it's not really what would happen. It's not physiologically, or what am I trying to say? It's not clinically necessary to have supervision in early labor.
Right.
So, okay. So there we go. For our road trip, we need education and planning. We need flexibility and resilience. And we need support. I don't know how that support ties into the road trip as well, but you need to have AAA. You need to have your mechanic network lined up. You need to have the app that tells you where the best gas prices are. You need to have, you want to talk to the people in the locations and find out about, like, that was one of the things when my friend and I went to Europe. She always said that she loved traveling with me because I just like strike up conversation with everybody. You would probably die 1,000 deaths.
I am not good at that. So I'm looking forward to someday being able to travel with you again so that we can do those things. But yeah, I never ask anything.
But
so
you get more information and you get privileges.
Yeah. I'm sure that's true.
People give you things or discounts or you get an extra glass of wine. Like, and it's not that I'm doing it to be manipulative, but it's just about that connection. Anyway.
Oh, I believe it.
Social capital. Okay. We came up with our 3. Yay. All right. We have covered that one, but I think we'll cover this. So the other one was about who should be in the birth room. We kind of did that in a whole podcast. So if you're interested in who should be at the birth, we called it, what did we call it? It's a birthday party, or no, by invitation only is what we called it. So you could go back and find that podcast, by invitation only, if you're interested in that. How do you know if you've had a traumatic birth, and what should you do about it? I wish I had asked this before number X was born, she asks. So trauma, I think we could go back to our interview with Courtney Klein, which was called Perinatal Mental Health, I think.
Yep.
2 podcasts. I think that when you would know that it's a problem is when you're having obtrusive thoughts, when you're perseverating on it and you kind of can't get it out of your, you're kind of what we would have used to say dwelling on it, and if it's impacting your kind of ability to live your life in a functional way. So if it's a obtrusive and problematic thought, so that you're not able to do your enjoy life, I guess, and function and enjoy life. I guess those would be kind of keys that you've had a traumatic experience. I happen to know who asked this question, and I think what she's referring to, although of course it's not my experience, is not a bad outcome. It wasn't a C-section. It wasn't a demise. It wasn't anything like that. It was a precipitous birth. And we have talked about precipitous births as traumatic before, where they just happen so fast and you don't have anyone with you, and you can end up feeling really abandoned and out of control and scary.
Yeah. I think birthing in general is a really natural place for, like, inside your mind. So like none of this is, none of the stuff on the outside is what I'm talking about here. It could be totally straightforward on the outside, but I think you're in such a primal place that it's a really ripe situation for trauma to occur. And I think a precipitous birth is a great example because it's just so plausible that you could feel alone and in this really intense situation, and scared, and nobody understands what's going on inside here.
And sometimes you can't even say it.
And
you can't even articulate it. I think that Actually, this is reminding me of somebody who made a comment once. Sometimes it's really hard to modify these so that we're not violating anybody's
right
confidentiality. But the person said something like, I wanted X and I just kept doing Y, hoping that somebody would notice that I wanted X. Because I think that there's just this disconnect between being able to verbalize what you need, and then therefore you feel unheard.
Right.
And
yes.
And we're only people. Your partner's only a person. Nobody knows how to help you if you don't verbalize it. And it's completely understandable that you wouldn't be able to verbalize that because you are so in your head.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a time when I think you have to be vulnerable and open, and not pragmatic. What am I trying to say? You're not able to articulate what you need. So you have to be open. So you're feeling all these really big feelings, and you don't necessarily have the same tools at your disposal to say, I want X, Y, or Z.
Right. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does to me. I hope it makes sense to everybody else.
Good. Okay. So what to do with it is the second part of that question. What do you do about that trauma?
Well, recognizing it and perhaps speaking to a professional about it who is well versed in perinatal trauma, I think would be a great place to start. And I love people to talk with us about it to whatever degree that they are comfortable, so that we know that, you know, it's not necessarily that we can do anything different or anything, but just knowing that these thoughts were or are there can be helpful.
It's interesting. There's actually some conflicting research. Okay, wait, let me come back to the research. I wanted to say one more thing.
Okay.
You said recognizing it. I would say recognizing it and naming it and calling it that, like actually saying my birth was traumatic. That could be a really helpful, so that you're not just trying, and especially in a case like a precipitous birth. By the way, if we didn't define it, precipitous is just really fast.
Yeah.
The official definition is 2 hours inactive, 2 hours or less inactive.
Yeah.
labor.
And the reasons, I mean, there's other reasons too, but the reasons that it could be traumatic is that it's so fast, so intense. And sometimes I've had people that they like don't even have time to orient themselves into the place where they're going to have a baby. Like they're like normal life, and then a baby's here, and what happened? You know?
Yeah. There's no like process that happens. Anyway, so calling it, just say that was traumatic for me. If you can say that, I think that's a lot of the but anyway, there's some really interesting and conflicting research about debriefing after the birth. So we midwives have always been taught that we debrief after, you know, the first or the second postpartum visit, maybe day 1 or day 3, you know, in the first week, depending on the situation. I was always taught that you talk about that, talk about the birth. It can sometimes be unhelpful to debrief for people. So I think that sometimes we don't have the skills for
definitely
for the midwives. So there's a whole thing called trauma-informed care. How can we be trauma-informed providers? How can we we'll have to put some links in the blog post for that. But yeah, so, you know, how can we relate to our clients in a way that is not only helping them, but actually not perpetuating harm? And sometimes those debriefings are harmful. So it makes it really hard for us to know. Something about being a midwife that's really hard is that we have to do a lot of things. We have to be a clinical care provider. We have to be a counselor to some degree. We have to be a nutritionist to some degree. We have to be a insurance specialist to some degree.
True.
and a business owner. And, you know, there's so many things that we aren't always great at all of them. And I think this might be one of those areas that it can be hard to.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. So trauma-informed care is sort of what area that is. what am I trying to say? Like a discipline. It's a whole discipline, and there's a lot of resources. So we'll make sure that we link to some of those.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing you mentioned, talking to a therapist or a counselor that's particularly specializes, but I'm very fascinated by the research on EMDR, which is eye movement desensitization response. I think response is the last one. It's a therapeutic tool that uses like a vibration or a sensation to let's see, what's the word I'm looking for? It changes the way that you think about a problem or an event by stimulating both sides of the brain at the same time. So it's usually a vibration technique. Like there's a little buzzer thing that you can hold, but there's other ways to do it too. Like once upon a time they had you move your eyes back. I don't know. I don't exactly know all of the history of it, but it's a pretty interesting technique, and it's especially useful for dealing with traumatic situations. So I would suggest a perinatal counselor who is also skilled in EMDR. That would be my contribution to the counseling. Okay. I think everybody can benefit from counseling. So even if you're thinking to yourself, I'm not sure if this was traumatic or not, it doesn't matter. That's not relevant. That's not the question. The question is, do you want to talk to somebody about this?
Yeah.
Finding
just
a skilled
through
person.
The feeling, and then maybe once is all you need, just
yeah. Anything else on that?
I don't think so.
I think the question is, it's a good one, and it's really complicated. And
yes.
This would definitely be.
Yeah. I mean, it's not that I don't have any more thoughts on it. It's just that it's a big topic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's one of those areas where we would probably refer for.
Definitely.
Refer to somebody who has more skills than we do.
Mm-hmm.
Good. All right. Well, I think we're about at 30 minutes. So we really just got through 3 questions this time, but we really would like to get some more questions from you guys.
Yes.
Please email. You could email to Gina@metromidwifery.com, or you can go to the website www.metromidwifery.com, and there's a comment form on the front page. Also DM in Twitter or Instagram. Can you DM in Twitter? Is that a thing?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
And Messenger in Facebook. Messenger. Why can't I say that word all the time?
I don't think we are totally rested today.
No. The other thing about Facebook Messenger. It's not Messenger. Messenger. The thing about Facebook and Instagram, though, is if you're not, sometimes it goes to that other folder or whatever,
Oh yeah.
So sometimes people are even like, I would like to have a home birth, and I don't see it for 2 weeks. So that other folder's pitfall. So I would say you'd be better off going to email or in the comment box on the webpage would probably be the more reliable ways to get a hold of us.
Agreed.
All right. Well, follow us on all those things at Metro Midwifery, and keep an eye out. We're going to be having 1,000 follower giveaway for Instagram soon. So
yay.
Everybody keep checking back in. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great week.
Bye.
Bye.